Even when you feel low, you can still go. Even when you feel slow, you can still go. Even when there's no hope, you can still go. I never answer to no, man, I still go. Go, 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 go.
Hello, Railcast fans, and welcome back to another edition of the Railcast Talk Podcast. I'm your host, Kyle Savedich, and we got a couple things to talk about in this podcast. It's been about a week since I've done another podcast just because of the craziness that has happened with the games being at home, and then also on Thursday I had to take our dogs to South Bend, drop them off, and I was gone all weekend. Missed a good handful of games with the ending of Sioux Falls and then in with Sioux City, so we'll get into the conversation there. We'll get into conversation a little bit about what we're going to see forward, and also talk about a release and a new signee. So we'll get in all that kind of aspects of it. But so let's go ahead and look at the last two series against Sioux Falls and Sioux City. And, you know, I know that the East as a whole has been kind of beating up on the West. And I know we only took 1 out of 2 against Sioux City, but realistically, Sioux City, you know, every time we lost, we only lost by 1 run. So a pitch here or a play there may have turned the tide of the game. I know with the doubleheader, that's always an iffy one. And to me, it kind of always a little bit baffles me to a certain extent. That on double headers and the next day is an off day. I don't know why. I don't know if it's more of a starting pitching not rotation, but a rhythm kind of deal where, you know, Lamar will start with his starter in game 1, but then he'll go to the bullpen in game 2. To me personally, the way that he's been using the bullpen and the way that only really a certain amount of pitchers have been used, I would really like to see it more or less on those doubleheader games, putting out your starters, not necessarily saying that, you know, either which way you're going to get your starters. Because I mean, in game 1, the Railcats won 5-2 when Cuello pitched 6 innings. He only gave up 2 runs. And, you know, I don't know why you just wouldn't go to another starter, especially if he's going to pitch 6 innings or you're going to get 7 innings out of that starter. And just going into a bullpen, looking at the last game with Ventus, who's been hit or miss with some of his outings. I would say he's probably been filled better in the relief starting role that he has been a reliever. But I mean, he gave up 3 hits, only gave up 1 run, 4 walks and 1 strikeout. So the control is not necessarily there. And each pitcher except Wilkinson, who realistically, I don't know why they gave him an earned run on that situation, because it really wasn't an earned run because you had the batter on side. Let me see how they spin this out. It shouldn't have been an earned run. They're not. I hate when Point Streak does this. Is like when I want to break down each inning and they don't allow you to break down each inning because of some odd reason, and I wasn't able to write it down. But I'm pretty sure that last inning shouldn't have been an earned run, just because they had a runner on second already. So I don't know how they rock that into it. They don't give me, because typically you go there and it gives you like the scroll through and blah. Anyways, I'm beside the point on that. You know, it came down to extra innings. And it was just one of those that, you know, you felt like, you know, going into that last inning, into the going into overtime or extra innings, that if you can just get to extra innings and keep it to where it is, and you have the heart of your lineup coming at, you always feel like the Railcats are going to succeed in that. And it's just one of the situations where they didn't, and it's just one of those that you go to extra innings. The Railcats, they pull ahead with the lead. They lose the lead, they gain back the lead, that kind of stuff. And then, I know with extra innings, it's only 8 innings that they went, but with it being a doubleheader, just one of those that you can't really look at it. And I would say that, I know I'm kind of going off a little track because it's so hard when you don't get to watch the games and you can't really write things down and all this. You kind of jump all over the place, and I'm trying not to do that. I'm going to try to keep it under 30 minutes at least. But I mean, I really think outside of maybe, game 1 and game 2 of Sioux Falls, the pitching did its job and the hitting was just good enough to at least get you a win or 2 wins out if you split it that way. But what I'm getting at is, I think out of that, if you're going to only take 1 or 2 against Sioux Falls or Sioux City, then I think you're doing pretty well. Sioux City is second in the East or in the West, and in a tougher, not as tough as the East, but still a tough division there in the West. To be battling through that and being a successful team as they have been and be able to play them as tightly as they did, I think this still builds a little bit of momentum going forward for the Railcats. Jesus walk-off against Sioux Falls was awesome. I was glad I was there to watch it. But really, when you really think about it, I really don't think that Wednesday game. I know that Marriaga is the player of the game, and rightfully so. You're the one that drives in the runs, but really it came down to that 10th inning. Basically bases loaded, and you get the 6-4-3 double play. Then you just get yourself out of that situation, and Wilkinson was able to get himself out of the situation and get himself a win. And the next time he goes in, he gets a loss, but it's still one of those that he gets put in a situation. He puts himself in a situation with the 2 hits and the 1 walk, and then he gets the 2 strikeouts. Which when you think about it, so what happens there in that 10th is Hunter Klang gets the intentional second base, and then why this is all sorts of jacked. I hate Point Street with how they have this system put up, because it doesn't say it in correct order of how it was. I have it written down somewhere, but I don't have my book with me on all that situation. But I'm just saying, if it wasn't for I think it might have been the 6-4-3 double play first. No, that number. It was the 3-2 out for number 1 to get Klang out, and then it was the 6-4-3 double play to get them out of the inning. Which I think it gained a little bit of momentum, and then you just knew basically with Jesus coming up, and then you're putting, Marriaga, or not Marriaga, putting in Will Decker. I think that you kind of felt it. I felt I was like, this could be the situation, and he missed that home run by inches, but you just need to get just far enough for the runner to advance to home, and he did, and it was a great time. But I really think if it wasn't for the fielder's choice at home, and if it wasn't for the double play, and it was a squeak double play, it was very, very squeaky. I think Lingua kind of handled it oddly, the way it's been kind of going. It was just an odd play, and then it was kind of seemed like a slow transition from him to Diaz, and Diaz just scraped it in just in time. But really, before I forget to mention anything, we got a big round of applause to Lingua and his amazing playmaking over the past couple of series. I know we harp on him a lot, or I do, with the errors, because sometimes that has hurt the Railcats. I think that hurt them more in the beginning of the year than it has really now. I think they've done a better job of rebounding from mistakes, not all the time, but majority of the time. It seems like there's a lot of mistakes that happen, and they're able to kind of bounce back from, but not fully. In that situations and stuff like that. But this was just one of those that they put themselves in a hole and they got themselves out of the hole, and then they climbed out of the hole and they won the game. So it was just one of those things that it's a great way to see it for how it is for the Railcats. Just kind of looking here at the standings. And if you do watch or if you are listening it for today and tomorrow, like I said, I've been doing the daily updates of the standings, but with it being Monday and there's no games, that's just going to split into two. So that's anything like that. So, what we're looking at here right now, we're 4.5 games back from 5th, and now we are 5 games back from 4th. And I don't know how it's going to level itself out with the Railcats missing 1 game. I know it's going to be based off a win percentage, and it's kind of hard, could they have gotten the 33rd win, or would they be at the 43rd loss? Like, you just don't know necessarily what that situation, how they're going to fall into that one is. So it's going to be interesting to see what's going to happen here. But when we really look at it, the schedule doesn't get really any easier. Maybe if we catch Kane County, I guess what we should look at here, when we're looking at the standings, who's just up. I mean, obviously everyone in the East is above us in that aspect. But when you look at, Cleburne really fell. They were securely in that 3rd spot, and then the Railcats came to town. They split the series, and they just kind of seemed to falling off. They're out of the playoff race now, even though they got Sermo back. And it seems like the way that Sermo situation happened was that the Mexican League's wrapping up, and I'm pretty sure the team he played for didn't make the playoffs, whatever the case may be. So he probably loaned back to Cleburne to finish out the rest of the year there. So I don't know how that situation is going to wrap itself around. But Lake Country's been very hot. They won 7 out of the last 3. Kane County's been very hot to a certain extent, 6 out of 4. Chicago's back in that 2nd spot, and it's so tightly compact, except when you get the 1st and last, because the Dogs are 6.5 games back from that 1st spot. So like Milwaukee could falter and be fine. But really the Railcats, if they can catch fire and they can get through most of these teams, they could see themselves move up. Now it's going to be very hard. I was reading Kevin Luco's his power rankings and stuff, like the Railcats are near the bottom, and really they need to go 8-2 out of the next stretch here to really fight for a playoff spot. And you've already lost that 1 game. As he wrote it on Sunday, you already lost, so you're 1-1 at this point. And when you look at what the Railcats are going to go through, they're going to go through Chicago, who's number 2. You're going to go through Kane County, who's number 3. Lake Country, who's number 4. Then you have Fargo-Moorhead, who I believe is 3rd on the east side. And then you play Chicago at Chicago, and then you are in Milwaukee for 4 games in Milwaukee. Like, it's coming down to crunch time, and this is not an easy part of the schedule. And I said at the beginning, yes, oh, well, you'll get Lake Country at the end of the year. That'd be kind of nice little relief, and that's nowhere near it. So it's going to be a push. It's going to be a fight. The Kane County series is going to be very important. At Chicago, if you only take 1, I get it. You need to take 2. But the Lake Country and the Kane County, you have to have a sweep in there somewhere. You have to win 2 out of 3 at least, and a sweep in there. Like if you're not going to get a sweep, then I don't. You're really what happens at the end of the year, or what we're looking at right now. The Railcats have to win every series. If they lose one series, their playoffs hopes are really doing it. I'll start doing the math a little bit. I just don't know how the math is going to work out with them missing the one game, so I may have to figure something like that out. How that's all going to start to work itself out. I'll probably start them doing that math, probably after the Chicago series or after the Kane County series. I'm not 100% positive on that aspect of it, but it's come down to crunch time, and it's going to be very interesting. It's going to be very fun. It's going to be a fun time. I do have to admit that it's going to be a good fun time, but it's coming down to crunch time on that aspect of it. But let's go ahead and talk about what happened, and it threw me for a whirlwind, because with me being gone, I wasn't really paying attention, and I kind of came across to it. Or what happened when I was watching the doubleheader, I'm like, who's number 31? Who's this guy? Why is he playing third base? What happened? What's going on? I'm like, what happened? Well, at first when I looked, I saw that 31 he was batting. I'm like, who is this guy? I have no idea who this is. I went through the lineup. I'm like, I'm not seeing it. And then all of a sudden I'm like, oh, he plays third. Okay, let me look in the infielders real quick. And then I'm like, who are we missing? Like, oh, we're missing Victor Nova. I'm like, we released him? Like, what? Now, I asked through the grapevine a little bit here, and asked, why would they have gotten rid of Nova? And really, he slipped in his batting average at this point. Right now, Bockley and Gonzalez Gonzalez is below 150, but there's, a handful of games in that. They can't really fault a lot of them in that situation. But Nova fell into that 197. And, I know he was the walks leader with 41, which really helps out in that situation. But if you're not really producing outside of that, and talking through my little sources that I have, it seemed like maybe it could have been a work ethic issue. And, if you listen to the Matt Brunson interview, you would know that work ethic is huge in the clubhouse. How are you going to treat yourself as a professional? What are you going to do when you make mistakes? How are you going to strive yourself off of a situation if it's not coming? If you get benched for a couple games, how are you going to drive yourself to a different situation? And it may have seen something like that Nova just didn't have that rebound, that flexibility. And with him slipping a little bit, you can understand why. I mean, really, if you're slipping and you have a Valera who is batting at 270, and even a Contreras who's batting at 215, they're producing runs, they're producing hits. Why would you not keep them in the lineup? I mean, even at this point, it's even hard to keep Valera out of the lineup. And if you want to give a rotation at first and third, or whatever the case may be, that's what you're looking at. I mean, Valera's dropped, even in the RBI train, he's played in 57 games. He has 25 RBIs already. 25 RBIs. He's played in 39 games. 39 games. So he's playing almost 20 games less than some of these other players have. Outside your Mariagas, your Del Valles, your Castillos, your Linguas, and your Diaz. And Nova, you taking him out, was also a top producer in RBI. So you kind of taken that RBI feel and crunched it down a little bit. But that's, however you want to build your culture, if that's how you're going to build it, if it's a, if it's a work ethic, if you want to work hard and you don't want things to be handed to you necessarily, then this is how it's going to be. If you're going to put yourself in a slump, or you're going to be in a slump, you're going to have to fight yourselves out of it. You're going to have to be professionals about it. So that's the kind of feel I've gotten from it. And Mariaga's exploded. I'm just looking at, he's at 312 right now, and he's just exploded into the player that we've expected him to be at. In that case. But looking here at Marco Gonzalez, he was basically a free agent signing, shortstop actually, out of the Cleveland organization. looks like he may he's only hit double A with Akron. Was the only time that he hit, and just kind of looking here in his stats. And it took me a minute to try to find him because you have a Mark Gonzalez who plays, or Marcos Gonzalez. I forget the S part of that. When you look up his name, it brings up Marco Gonzalez, and Marco Gonzalez is a pitcher for Seattle. So it was I had to do a little bit of digging here. But it does say that he did reach Columbus, but in the MILB stats, it doesn't say that he reached that AAA level. But it looks like he might have. I guess the Columbus Clippers. So he was promoted to the Clippers on the 16th and released the 27th. It doesn't look like there's really anything. The MLB stats don't show anything, but the Baseball Reference does. In that he batted a 140, and then he went back down or went back up, or he went down to when he was at Akron. He was batting a 500, and that was at 16 at bats, and then he went up. He was batting a 140. Looking at the career average at all levels, looking here at batting at 252, has almost 200 walks, so he seems like a guy that can, get some walks. I know he got 1 RBI with the Railcats, that kind of stuff. So, maybe it's just a replacement, but I'm not sure. I like the Valera there at third and Contreras at first. I think they both offset themselves very well, even if you vice versa them. It's just kind of funny when you talk about work ethic, and I don't know if it's just the way that I see Valera. I would have to know him personally. Just watching him play, there's a lot of times where he'll have his glove off at first, making conversation with the umpire or whatever the case may be, and he's sliding his mitt on in last second. And I'm not saying he hits the ball very well if that's his relaxing, but there was one time I think he made a mistake and he blamed it on someone else. But that's just what I see from the outside looking in. I don't know him personally. I can't, I don't know what kind of person he is in the clubhouse, but he just kind of he looks like one of those guys that hold himself as I'm better than you when he walks around, and I do know wrong, but I could be wrong. That's just one of those. That's just what I see from the inside going on. That's my opinion. If someone says anything different, I can look differently and go on with that as portion of that. But that was probably the biggest shock to me was Nova, leaving. I don't really know what to say. It's just like this team. Okay, let me one more thing. Let me get into this whole Cadell situation. All right, now he has 4 home runs and he has 6 RBIs, and sometimes when he hits home runs, it's in key situations, like the game, when we beat Sioux Falls, in a walk-off. He helped with that. But the thing is when I look here at the batting averages, okay, Cadell's almost at the 20-game mark, and he's batting a 200. And Greeley's batting a 241 at 36 games here. That's at 116 plate appearances and 60 plate appearances for Cadell. Greeley has 9 RBIs. Cadell has 6. I get that. I mean, if you're looking at the RBIs, but if you have the home run numbers, that's what you're going to get. Me personally, I think Greeley is a tad bit better defensive catcher. And this is why I say this. If you go back and you watch the game, even if you watch Cadell now, you just bear with me and watch what he does. And when the bases, if you want to go back to that game, when the base is loaded, he is setting up and he's on his knees basically. I think he sets up with the one leg on the ground and the one leg out. Now, when the base is loaded and the game on the line, I don't know why you want to set up like that. I don't think he is very. I have a couple issues. It looks like a lot of times when he sets up right down the middle of the plate. I don't know if he effectively can call a game, and that's maybe a situation why he was released from AAA. I'm just with Greeley being a switch hitter, batting at 241, and you need people to bat. I mean, if we're just strictly going off of batting averages here, 1, 2. If we're gonna base the lineup off of batting averages, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Greeley would be batting 9th. All right, Contreras would be after that, and then Cadell would be after that. So batting 9th, if he was batting 9th, that would be at a 241. Everyone above him is batting at 255, 266, 270, 281, 283, 284, 299, and a 312. Me personally, I don't understand why you wouldn't want that guy on playing the field or being in the lineup somewhere somehow, because he's going to get you on base every at least 4 at bats. Four at bats he's going to get on base. Right now you're looking at Cadell, who at the time was batting at 191, wasn't doing very well on it. Maybe he's adjusted to it, but there's a lot of things that I take away from Cadell that I'm just like, just the defensive aspect of it makes me uneasy. At the beginning, I think he had a lightning arm, and I think, that might not quite be there. I don't know if it's a coaching thing or whatever. I'm not sure what the situation is. I don't know what it is about Lamar and not playing Greeley as much. I think he has proven himself multiple times. Looking at the 2 years, even last year he was batting at 237. Taking that first step, but it just seems like they're just not giving him the opportunity to play, and I think he plays very well. I think he's a good catcher. I think he calls games very well. But I'm not inside the locker room. I don't know how it all rolls itself around and that kind of stuff. But that's just my little rant for the day. So we're going to keep it under 30 minutes this time. And then we should be back after the, after the Chicago series, which is in Chicago, which sucks that they don't play Chicago on a Friday, Saturday, Sunday, because I really want to go to Beckfield when the Railcats are playing, but I won't get that opportunity to do that. But yeah, after the Chicago series, I should have another podcast out, and then Friday is going to be a fun, interesting one there. I'm hopefully going to be out of I'll be at least to 1 game, hoping to go 2 games. But Sunday I have obligations, family side, so I won't be at the Kane County Sunday one. So it is what it is. That's how life rolls around. But that's going to wrap it up for me. If you enjoy the podcast, please leave a like, comment, and subscribe. Everyone that does pay attention, everyone that interacts with me on social media, I really do appreciate it. It reminds me why I'm doing it, keeps me motivated to do it, so I appreciate that. As the year's coming to a close here shortly, maybe I'll have some more off-season ideas and stuff like that, getting into that aspect. But we're focused on the rest of this. But yeah, be sure to follow me on all social media platforms. Most podcast platforms are up and available. So yeah, I want you to enjoy the rest of your day, rest of your evening, whenever you're watching this, and go Cats.
The 0-2. Swing and a miss, strike 3. Wrap this one up in green and white.